Okay, come on guys, you knew this was inevitable. It's time for the Switch Online rant. Now I've done a Switch Online rant before. However, it was unscripted, and a couple things have changed since I made that. And I think you'll soon understand why I decided to make this rant now of all times. So for those unfamiliar, Switch Online is the service where Nintendo gives you the privilege of letting you play their games online. And, okay, you know what? You remember how I said it was a service just a second ago? Well, that's not really fair, since a service implies you're getting something worthwhile and worth paying for. What do you actually get with Nintendo Switch Online anyway? Well, I'm glad you asked. You get such perks as playing the Switch Online. Oh, wait, what's that? You want more? Well, you also get cloud saves for your games. Well, the ones that support it anyway. Because remember, this was before you could transfer saves at all. If something happened to your Switch, there goes your saves. So yeah, that's helpful in a roundabout, I'm getting slightly less screwed compared to how I would otherwise sort of way. You wish for save backups, and Nintendo demands $20 for it. You can also do voice chats with Okay, who the hell actually used that? No exaggeration, who here has actually used this feature? There's some massively convoluted setup you have to do in order to use it, and it's faster to just go onto, say, Discord and set things up that way. God knows I've never used the Switch Online call feature. And if it's anything like the gameplay experience,
it probably sounds like you're trying to communicate over dial-up with a horrible quality mic.
But surely there's more Switch Online has to offer? Well, yes. This is the real thing that makes Switch Online worth it. The NES and SNES games. And they're the weakest lineup ever. But at least you'll get more of the games at an inconsistent snail's pace. People were hyping this up as if it would be the entire NES library, or at least all the first-party ones. In fact, here's a fix. Make every single first-party game available from the get-go. I can understand the third-party games having some legal issues that prevent them from being put on the service, at least right away, but for the first-party titles, Nintendo has no excuse. Just use your own proprietary emulator and call it a day. Some companies wonder why customers opt for piracy over their own product. Wow, it's almost like emulating any game from virtually any console ever made is way better than waiting for Nintendo's slow drip of what's a lot of the time their own titles. But okay, let's calm down. We're finally getting Sega Genesis and N64. And you know what? I think that even with the slow drip of releases, simply the amount of systems we'll be able to play will arguably make the $20 price of admission for Switch Online finally worth it.
It costs extra. Wait, what? Yeah, didn't you hear? It costs extra. Costs extra? Oh no, oh crap!
You know what? I want to tell you all a little story about another Nintendo console. The Nintendo Wii. That system was great. Had the virtual console and everything. A great lineup of games, and a lot more. But probably my favorite part of that console wasn't even what Nintendo could offer, but rather what modders could offer. You see, the Wii was almost trivially easy to soft mod, which could open up a world of emulation. Pretty much everything up through the N64 you could play on the Wii, and that's not to mention the GameCube games which were natively supported. The Wii U was similar, but due to its much smaller install base, I'm unsure how far that really went. The Switch could easily be an emulation powerhouse with Nintendo's proper care, but let's face it, it probably won't be. Now, the Switch could play basically any Nintendo system's games. Nah, Nintendo just doesn't really feel like it right now. But hey, at least we get to pay $20 for several decade-old games. Again, add a drip feed. But let's discuss the biggest issue with Nintendo Switch Online. The actual online gaming portion. I could more or less forgive the rest of what's happened here if the online was good. No, it really isn't. Nintendo seems to have no back-end servers doing any work to smooth out gameplay, or at least some sort of rollback netcode for certain games. No, instead we get the same old peer-to-peer thing we've had for ages. This might sound okay enough, except for the fact that peer-to-peer means your match is as strong as its weakest link, pretty much. So if you're playing against someone who's using really bad Wi-Fi, expect everything else about the match to be as bad as that. Nintendo's online multiplayer has always been fine so long as it's in a game where you're doing something fairly predictable. Such as in Mario Kart, you're driving in a single direction, that usually being forward. Or in, say, Super Mario Maker, where, oh, oops, haha, nope, just kidding, they somehow can't get a 2D Mario game to work in a stable manner.
What? The countdown timer's not even going, dude. I can't move. I'm not making this up. I cannot move.
But at least they finally got Mario Party working! Sort of. So basically, Nintendo Switch Online fails at not only its main job, but everything else as well. So that raises the question, why does Nintendo Switch Online exist anyway? Well, the simple and, let's face it, realistic answer is money! There's no other reason. Nintendo saw what the other companies were doing, making lots of money off of forcing players to pay a subscription for online service, and they decided they should cash in on it too. Personally, I'm of the belief that this model should have more or less gone the way of the dinosaur by the end of the last decade. No one should have to pay extra just to play multiplayer games or have voice chat, but hey, what do I know, right? Now, I can already hear the arguments in the Nintendo fanboys of how it's only $20 a year, but I don't care. This should be free. Not only could the argument be made back when it was free that at least we didn't have to pay for it, in some instances the online experience was actually better back then. Take Smash Bros. For example. On Wii U, while you did have some matches with not so great connections, those were generally pretty rare. Now you've got about a 25% chance to run across someone who's playing on dial-up for some reason, and just ruins the game until you decide to SD to get out of the match because, that's right, you get penalized for leaving the match early because the other player has awful internet. Thanks, Nintendo! But what caused me to make this rant now, considering that Switch Online has been out for a couple years? Nintendo Switch Online is already overpriced and awful as it is, but it's another thing entirely when you have to pay even more for things that might have finally made the original price worth it. So, the lesson here? Don't make terrible online services for your console. Nintendo isn't some small indie startup that can barely make ends meet. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. And to Nintendo fans, stop simping for companies, okay? And finally, if you want to play old games, just emulate them, because at this rate, God knows Nintendo won't give them to you. Well, thank you all for watching, and take care. Now, I'm sure some of you might be wondering, Dub, why didn't you show much Nintendo footage in this video? Because half the footage I would have to show for Switch Online games would have been at dial-up speed because other people's internet sucks for some reason. Okay, but seriously, it was pretty bad. Just trust me on this one.